Hi friends. So for the last 24 months, the entire world has been sold what may be the most expensive and the most captivating, almost unrealistic dream in the entire history. We were told that the era of coders, the writers, the analysts, and the customer care executives was all coming to an end. We were even told that the mid-level management was also no longer necessary. From the corners of Silicon Valley started to come in bold declarations that artificial intelligence is the final replacement for human labor. Well, what was the result? The result was that all these big tech companies launched a brutal wave of layoffs in the name of quote unquote hyper efficiency. So, companies such as Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta showed, in fact, door to thousands of qualified professionals, because a new logic had suddenly emerged. They thought that if a machine can work 24 hours a day without getting tired and without demanding a salary, then why carry the burden of these human overhead costs? But by the mid 2026, something had dramatically changed. The excitement that once filled Silicon Valley boardrooms is beginning to disappear. In its place, there's an uncomfortable silence and some very sharp questions. Companies are no longer questioning AI's intelligence. They are, in fact, questioning their balance sheets. Has big tech been encouraged to gamble billions of dollars on a technological illusion whose returns on investments, that is the ROI, is almost close to zero? Today, we are not going to examine the AI's coding capabilities and the technical aspects of AI. Instead, we will investigate the invisible bill or the cost behind AI, the cost that has shocked some of the world's largest corporations, because history repeats itself. This time, however, the price tag runs into billions of dollars. Now, let's speak about the AI gold rush. Now, when ChatGPT was launched in November 2022, the world experienced what can only be described as an AI gold rush. In business language, this is called FOMO, that is, fear of missing out. Now, under pressure from Wall Street, companies, large and small, abandoned many of their existing priorities and started to pour in money into generative AI. However, generative AI contains a major economic flaw that was largely ignored in the beginning. Now, to understand this, consider a basic rule of software economics, the rule of zero marginal cost. So, what happens is once software like WhatsApp or Windows has been built, it makes little difference whether 1000 or 1 million or 1 billion people use it. The software does not need to be rebuilt every time a new user joins. But generative AI breaks this rule. A reason being that AI is not a traditional software, because every prompt, every question, every request requires fresh computing power. This cost is known as the inference cost. Every interaction with AI consumes resources, and that changes the entire economic equation. So now why these companies are becoming concerned? Well, Microsoft has reportedly begun instructing internal departments to limit the excessive use of external AI models. Similarly, companies like Uber, which provided AI coding assistance to thousands of developers because their expectation was that AI could do a lot of computing on their own. The expectation was really ambitious, that the productivity would increase as much as about 40%. But then what actually happened? Productivity may have improved by only around 5%. Meanwhile, cloud computing expenses and API costs increased dramatically, sometimes by as much as 300%. What Silicon Valley marketed as a revolution was in many cases becoming a capex trap, a capital expenditure trap. Now let's talk about the economic model that nobody talked about. Let's go deeper into the economics. Now, when a company hires a human employee, the cost is relatively predictable. The employee receives a fixed month salary, whether that employee solves, two problems, five problems, or 50 problems in a day. The salary generally remains the same. But AI works differently because AI is not an employee, it's not a human. AI behaves more like an electricity meter. Every word generated, every token pressed, every image created adds up to the bill. So usage directly translates into cost. And as usage scales, the cost also scales along with it. So now why human workers still have an advantage? According to recent analysis from Gartner, which is a major consulting giant, by the end of 2026, as much as 30% of organizations that fully embrace generative AI may reconsider their approach and move some functions back towards human labor. Now, you might be wondering why. Well, because humans possess three advantages that large language models still struggle to replicate. First is the contextual awareness. Humans understand context, they understand nuance, the culture, the business realities, and human intentions. But AI often struggles when the context becomes complicated or ambiguous. The second is accountability. If an AI system makes a costly mistake, you cannot take the AI into court, right? You cannot hold it legally responsible. Responsibility ultimately falls on human beings and organizations, which are run by, of course, humans. And the third one is the economics of creativity. A human does not send an additional bill for every second of thinking, but AI does. Every interaction carries a computational cost. Now, that cost difference actually matters when usage reaches millions or billions of iterations. So, does this mean AI is finished? Well, not at all. To understand what is happening, we should look at the history. Remember the dot com bubble of 2000? At the time, any company with a dot com attached to its domain name saw its stock price soar. Companies ranging from Amazon to even pets.com became market sensations. And then suddenly the bubble had burst. Billions of dollars vanished. Hundreds of companies disappeared. But did the internet disappear? Not at all. The internet survived and in fact thrived. In fact, after the bubble burst, companies that created genuine value, such as Amazon, Google, and eBay, became some of the most successful businesses in history. AI may now be approaching a similar moment. The AI hype cycle is slowing down, but that does not mean that AI itself is going away. Now, the investors are asking one question. For years, AI growth was fueled by enormous venture capital funding. The money was flowing freely. Many AI services were effectively subsidized. But investors are now becoming impatient, whether it is AI, Anthropic, or Google. The question is increasingly direct. Where is the profit? In 2025, companies were asked, do you have an AI strategy? But in 2026, the more important question is your AI investment actually helping your company remain profitable? Or is it pushing the business even closer to financial trouble? So, now what's the real lesson? Well, we have seen that technological revolutions are not ultimately judged by Silicon Valley's excitement. They are judged by economics. AI will never be able to replace humans. Instead, people who understand how to use AI effectively and economically will replace those who rely solely on the hype. The examples of Microsoft and Uber illustrate this perfectly. Now, the time has come to move beyond the artificial debate of AI versus humans. A more realistic future is one of the coexistence, a future where technology is not the master, but a powerful, efficient, and in fact a cost effective tool. So, what do you think? Have concerns about rising AI costs started appearing in your company or industry? Do you believe an AI slowdown could actually benefit labor intensive countries or economies like ours, India? Please share your thoughts and perspectives on this. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.